Hello and welcome, I am King Scree with MMOplay.com, showcasing the top 10 MMOs to look out for coming out in 2016. Now, I'm playing a bit fast and loose with coming out and MMO. When I say coming out, I mean it's available in a major way for a lot of people to play, or just straight up for the first time. Also, I count pretty much any multiplayer online game as an MMO. Anyway, without further ado, Number 10, Lost Ark, from Tripod Studios, expected early 2016 for the Korean closed beta test. Lost Ark is the game I know the least about on this list, but I'm still excited about, so it'll sit right up here at the top. Just about all we know is that it's an MMORPG with hooks similar to Diablo. So expect hack and slash action while collecting an unreasonable amount of loot on the way. What I like to hear is that it's an open world and everything that comes with it, so big boss battles and cooperative events. Along with character customization, you can pick from 18 distinct classes, like the warrior and mage, in addition to their plethora of usable skills in battle. You'll have two different level meters to increase, a life level and a battle level. Both unlock different things, keeping the gameplay fresh for a long period of time. When not spilling the guts of demons, you can relax with non-combat activities like gathering components, fishing, drinking, or even playing card games. Or maybe you just want to sail the world and claim islands as your own. You can do that too. When looking to triumph over noobs, head over to the arena or just follow along with the story. Demons have invaded and look to destroy every living thing. Unfortunately, people have forgotten that the demons have been fought off before. The Ark. The Lost Ark. Currently, we've seen and even heard next to nothing except for the big plans, but they're not too big. Just big enough to be absolutely plausible and keep my interest intact. Sometime in January, players over in Korea will get a taste of the closed beta in early 2016. No doubt, North America and similar regions are on the list soon after that, at the very least later on in the year. Lost Ark is pretty far off for us folk, but still very much on the radar. Number 9, Blade and Soul, from Team Bloodlust, who are owned by NCSoft. Expected release date sometime in early 2016. Blade and Soul is pretty much the only normal MMO on this list at all. Pretty surprising and really quite a relief that developers are slowly moving away from the ho-hum and traditional. As you can imagine, you can customize a character, pick a class, and complete quests while battling baddies. I suppose the most interesting thing is that the skills need to be comboed, like in fighting games. Besides being really pretty, I feel Blade and Soul doesn't have a whole lot going for it, to be honest. Maybe it's just my personal distaste for seeing traditionalism, but I haven't the interest to play these types of games. It looks pretty and does pretty much everything fairly well, I'm guessing, but I believe this microgenre to be largely on its way out in favor of other titles that change up the formula of what an MMO is. Getting into the game-wise, you can buy a Founders Pack to get access to the closed beta periods, which are going on all of December. Otherwise, you'll have to wait until early 2016 to get in. There will be no elements of pay to win, fortunately, other than an EXP boost when you have a premium membership, so nothing too annoying on that front. If this game's your sort of thing, look forward to it. I, on the other hand, couldn't be bothered. Number 8, BATTLEBORN, from Gearbox Software. Expected release date, May 3rd, 2016. Trapped on a star and nowhere left to run, the people have nominated the greatest heroes remaining as the Battleborn. Go forth and defeat the plants. Plants? Yes, plants. They don't seem like a threat, but don't underestimate them. Take to the story mode and protect your people alone or with a buddy. But we all know what we really want here, a fight to the death. Gear up in 3 different game modes, showcasing a 5-on-5 match between the galaxy's best. You can pick from a whopping 25 unique character selection. In game, you'll level up your hero through a helix tree, which will dictate how you play from the match onward. Outside the game, you have a standard progression system, unlocking new skins and this all sounds pretty fantastic, but there is a pretty massive downside, a really unfortunate one. Both this and Overwatch, which I cover later on, are not only strikingly similar, but come out around the same time. I weep, not really, for the unfortunate coincidence. I just can't see Gearbox winning this fight against Blizzard. At least in a somewhat similar situation in the Call of Duty versus Battlefield, you had 2 distinctly different games within the same player base. If I had to pick one to stick with, it would be Overwatch. Number 7, Life is Feudal MMO by Bitbox Ltd. Early to mid 2016. Yeah, Minecraft is cool, but what if I'm not like 7 years old and want something more gritty and realistic? Well, I have just the thing for you. Life is Feudal, MMO. And no, that's not just a true fact, it's a game too. What a coincidence. Take your MMORPG to the next level. Let's get hardcore. First and foremost, this is a massive terraformable sandbox, meaning you can mine blocks and build whatever you like, be it a giant phallic statue or a humble abode. The world is yours. In addition to all that silliness, you can pave roads for ease of access for you and other players, build mines, moats, tunnels, and use those collected materials for crafting. They even added a novel way to craft a lot of something is to do so through minigames. If something is especially tedious, you just minigame them away. I do have a slight fear though that is going to be tedious in itself, but we'll see. Outside of all that wussy stuff, head over to the battlefield where death carries a heavy penalty, but a significant reward as well. There isn't any auto-targeting, and physics act as they should, so it's almost entirely skill-based, not just whomever has the better numbers. If you just want to try the game out, you certainly can over at Tutorial Island, but if you want to move on, you have to buy the game. I much prefer this payment method as opposed to free-to-play with a bunch of microtransactions. Complaint-wise, I find it difficult finding a large audience for such a gritty, rough-looking MMORPG without a succinctly clear vision, which admittedly I don't believe this game has. I was confused approaching this title, and even after research, I'm still confused as to what they're actually going for. Also, there's like 2 versions of this game, but one is the same thing but different. It's all very confusing. Otherwise, I do look forward to tracking Life is Feudal MMO's continuing progress. Number 6, SKYSAGA by Radiant Worlds. Unknown release date, but probably late 2016. I'd like to think of SKYSAGA as a mod for Minecraft complex enough to become its own game, and I believe that to be a compliment really. At a glance, you pretty much can figure out what's going on here. Mine cubes and build again using variation of those cubes. There also seems to be quite the emphasis on combat, but as a whole this game is in its alpha stages. But oh man, I love the look, they really nailed it there. Similar enough to Minecraft to give players familiarity, but different enough to be its own thing. Like I mentioned before, SKYSAGA is in its very early stages, so there isn't much to say. Besides, you probably want to jump on this bandwagon early. It may not blow away records in any form or fashion or garner major media attention, but it's a nice, quaint little project to get behind. Getting into play isn't so difficult. You simply sign up and you'll probably be invited to a beta wave soon enough. It will be free to play with the option to purchase something? It hasn't really been specified. No doubt going free to play will help catch those stragglers who can't afford Minecraft. A really good decision, I feel. The only downside so far that I can see is that it's very early into the development cycle, and also I'm not super clear on their future plans. How are they going to differentiate themselves from Minecraft? That is ginormous. They cannot just be a cool mod that runs alongside of it. Doesn't have to be better, it just has to be different. And I don't feel I've really gotten a huge impression of that so far. But like I said, it is in its alpha stages. So that is the 6 through 10. Now we're going to start getting to the heavy hitters, and we're going to start it off with probably one of the biggest hitters ever. Number 5, Star Citizen from Cloud Imperium Games. Expected late 2016. Oh man, Star Citizen is a complicated beast. Where to begin? A little background. Star Citizen started out on Kickstarter. I don't have the exact required figure to pass, but it was something in the millions probably. They seem to have raised it fairly easy as they surpassed it and more. Then their crowdsourcing moved to their website, where up to this point they have raised something like $90 million. 90 million! A truly breathtaking figure. When I first saw that, I was sure they added at least one too many zeros, but nope. 90 million. To put that in perspective, it costs a total of $265 million for Grand Theft Auto 5 to be released. Star Citizen raised a large portion of that already, and it's still in its alpha state. In a roundabout way, this leads to a few of my concerns, which I will cover in a second. If you want to play it all this far, you must buy one of the packs to access the so-called modules, which are essentially small packages of what the final game is going to be. As I understand so far, there isn't very much really, only the tip of a massive iceberg lurking below the water. I believe you have the hangar where ships hang out and a few other minor modes. The packs that you buy will typically give you ships, mostly in the $50 range, but if you're looking to burn a couple $100 builds, you can go into the $1,000 plus versions. Okay, so that's about where we are, but where are we looking? Cloud Imperium Games has a big vision. They want to make a genre blended game of a dynamic player driven space trader, a combat simulator, and a first person shooter in addition to space combat all rolled into one. And this will all mostly be dictated by players in an ever expanding 30th century Milky Way. As the namesake implies, citizenship will play a major part. Only after accomplishing certain tasks will the United Empire of Earth grant you that citizenship. There will also be a skeleton of a campaign featuring voiceover work of stars like Mark Hamill, who did Luke Skywalker, and did some voices in the Batman animated series. I think he was the Joker. And Gary Oldman, Batman, he was the Detective Gordon, and he was, I forget his name, but he was the bald guy villain in The Fifth Element. So some really great voice actors. Now the part where I get a bit cynical and rate this game much lower on the list than I imagine most would. Simply put, I just don't believe that they can do it. I've become pretty jaded with this genre after the mess Destiny has become despite the pre-release hype. Now, whenever I see a developer get a big head about intricate space stuff, No Man's Sky, I inherently want to wait and see instead of build myself up only to be let down. On top of this, they've seen a monumental amount of funding without a whole lot to really show for it. To be fair, I haven't been keeping up with every press release or whatever. I'm just reporting on what I found poking around the website for a while. It could be one of the biggest games of the century, played for decades with generations of fans, but I, for one, won't be getting my hopes up. Number 4. CROWFALL by Artcraft, expected winter 2016. The Night's Watch is all that stands wrong crows. CROWFALL is a kickstarted action MMORPG looking to spice things up. Ditch those lame ass quests to help the farmer's daughter. Here, you must survive, but more than that, you must win. Ever approaching from the edge of the kingdom which you reside is the Hungry, an unstoppable force killing everything in its path. Luckily, it takes a set amount of time, like 1 month all the way to a year. All the while, it will consume and continue to consume everything in its way. Also, the surrounding territory becomes significantly less hospitable. During this time, you and your fellows must collect resources to build weapons and castles to repel the enemy. When the kingdom is finally swallowed, it's gone forever. But fear not, however. There are plenty more to start anew. While they aren't doing anything really novel gameplay wise, I am infatuated with the idea of building a kingdom from scratch, fight against another player's kingdom, which they too created from scratch, all while you're kind of like on the clock from this approaching doom. I don't think I can be blamed for thinking that their downfall will be the idea that something this massive and meticulous just can't be easily created. They will have to work tirelessly and work out all the kinks and bugs and weird things before release. A daunting task indeed. But if they can pull it off, it will be fantastic to not only play, but to hear about, akin to following progress of major wars in like EVE Online or something like that. Number 3, Black Desert from Pearl Abyss, early 2016. Black Desert is something a little bit different. Instead of being a whiny teenager trying to save the world or something equally ridiculous, you are a soldier, a part of a great army facing off another great army. You live to kill the other guy, essentially. So far, there have been a few IP-locked betas in Korea, but otherwise, NA players haven't really had much of a taste until now. Well, not now, but here in a few weeks or so. On December 16th, 2015, NA and EU players get a chance to get in. If you think luck is for the weak, you can just buy your way in. The core of what Black Desert is, it's extraordinarily focused on PvP. It's an action-based RPG with emphasis on skill play. For example, there are no healers, so you must rely on critical dodging and blocking to negate damage, and drinking potions as only a last resort. In addition to dodging, you must manually aim abilities and attacks. No tab targeting, unfortunately. All around you is dynamic weather effects and a day-night cycle constantly changing how you might want to attack an enemy. Should you get into an unfavorable position, you can try and parkour your way out. Heading home from combat is your continually upgrading house. In addition, you have meticulous control of your appearance to blend in or shine on the battlefield. Massive player versus player has been done before. Will Black Desert do it any better? My major worries are buying power, which I doubt will happen, and simply unbalanced gameplay. Hugely over or underpowered characters can destroy a multiplayer focused game. As a side note, Will this be better than Guild Wars 2 World vs. World? It seems pretty similar as an onlooker. But while I thoroughly enjoyed certain moments of World v World, it seemed to never really take off in a major way in Guild Wars 2. With Black Desert being buy to play, something similar might occur here too. This is more of a personal fear really. It's almost like comparing apples to oranges, but still something that just kind of digs at the back of my brain. Number 2, Tree of Savior from IMC Games, with a relatively unknown release date. From the Godfather of Ragnarok, Online brings one of the most anticipated MMORPGs of the decade. While there isn't a concrete date of release, there has been a few open betas allowing players across the world to get a taste of this beautiful 2.5D love letter to classic games that we grew up with. The story premise is something like this. One day out of the blue, the Tree of Savior appeared and destroyed the capital palace. The goddesses, who were supposed to protect the humans, disappeared one by one. Earth's inhabitants fell into great despair until many people came forward about the dreams they had regarding the goddesses. Would the protectors finally return, or is the worst to come? In-game, it's an action-packed adventure filled to the brim with over 200 territories, 3 major cities, hundreds of huge bosses, and 80 classes. 80! It's a ridiculous number! Of course, being an MMORPG, you'll have dungeons, PvP, an expansive crafting system, and cosmetic delight. The only problem I can see arising is a lenience on microtransactions to speed progress, or something similar, instead of gating premium content like maps, classes, skills, etc. That way, free content is essentially like a tutorial island, although they have already said it's going to be free to play with stuff you can buy. I just hope they don't go overboard. And finally, number 1, Overwatch from Blizzard Entertainment. Expected release date, early 2016. Easily one of the biggest games on everyone who plays games radar, and the next big project from MMO giant Blizzard. Wait, you mean the guys that made one of the biggest, best MMORPGs, World of Warcraft, one of the biggest trading card games, Hearthstone, one of the biggest RTS of StarCraft, one of the biggest MOBAs in Heroes of the Storm, and one of the biggest hack and slashers in Diablo? Yes, their resume is hefty, to say the least. A staple of all those games is an exceptional level of production value and polish. Overwatch will be no different. So far, there has been a very limited beta spanning a few weeks, and you could get in if you are a popular streamer or had connections. Otherwise, you'll just have to wait until the open beta or just the full release early into 2016. In addition to a standard PC release, even console players will be able to jump in on the fun with PS4 and Xbox One editions. If you happen to live under a rock, how's the mortgage rate over there? If you don't know what this game is, it's pretty much a first-person shooter arena. Think like Team Fortress 2.0. Overwatch's most immediately noticeable quality is the cartoony look. Some say childish, I say timeless. Besides the style, there are plenty of effects to make it look amazing and just simply breathtaking. Don't be fooled. Those weapons may look goofy, but still are just as dangerous. What you'll soon see is that Blizzard went the extra mile to make damn sure each character was unique and brought something different to the battlefield besides, gun shoots faster. From a healing angel to the front and center shield knight, each hero is different from one another in both abilities, looks, and weaponry. On the point of abilities, that's another significant point. Akin to a MOBA, and probably the main differentiator from similar games, is the heroes having skills and even an ultimate. For example, a robot can turn into a tank. These game-changing abilities will have a drastic effect and must be used or defended against appropriately. But the big question that has been running rampant over the past couple weeks, will Overwatch be a roaring success or a flop? People who have already played it love it, but others who see the $60 price tag for a multiplayer only experience seems like a bit too much to ask. See what happened to Evolve, you think? Will going buy to play instead of free to play hurt the game initially? In the long run? Personally, I buy games like Call of Duty and Battlefield for the hefty $60 price tag and don't even touch the other modes, so I'm thinking it'll do just fine, especially considering it's Blizzard. And no doubt if like the player base were to dwindle, my guess is that they would just go all free to play, just like Team Fortress did. While I am still salty about the influx of VIPs in the beta instead of the everyman, I am still completely looking forward to playing the next big hit in multiplayer shooters.